broadcasting. I've had the pleasure to meet him a couple of times. The national treasure is overused, but Bill Raftery is a Fox College basketball analyst, coached for over a decade at Seton Hall. He's called the last 5 Final Fours, called all of Duke's tournament games, and actually was drafted by the Knicks. Never played in the NBA. I didn't know that. I wonder why that is. I wonder why he didn't. Bill Raftery is joining us in his office, I guess, in New York City. Why didn't you play? You got drafted, so you were good enough to get drafted. Why didn't you play?
Red Holzman didn't like me. He was a good judge. By that way, he was a great judge of talent. So I always say that I was the 800th draft pick. But back in those days, John, there were 8 teams in the league, and I think they carried 10 men. It was amazing. So there were 80 guys in the league at one time. And then, of course, the ABA started 2 or 3 years later, I think, and things jumped around a little bit. And, franchises, I think Chicago came in, they hadn't been in, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, it was a great one closer on it. When I got cut, I was leaving the building. I went in and got my gear, and Richie Guerin, who's in the Hall of Fame, and Tom Gola, who's in the Hall of Fame, they were on the team. And I got cut at lunch, so I ran up to get there before everybody showed up. And as I was leaving, Richie Guerin denies this story to today, but we're leaving, and he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I got cut." I mustered up some strength. I got cut. And Richie Guerin says, "Gee, I'm sorry to hear that, Billy, but if you need tickets, call Tommy." And I take that as a great, like, life is over. You better start moving along here, kid.
Yeah.
So, but Richie denies it. It was a little touch of reality.
I want to ask you about Zion. Does he remind you of anybody? We know he's going to be a good NBA player. Who's he remind you of?
I told one of your guys nobody, but the closest I could come up with is Randall, Julius Randall, simply because he's got that 6'9" size, but he's only 250 pounds. And I don't think we ever got to see a great, you're out in L.A., so you got a little bit of but he was always injured. He broke that leg the first year, then had hip, then had a hand. But physically, I have never seen anybody like this that can do so many things. Of course, everybody says, well, like LeBron. He's like LeBron in that he's positionless. And I've got my Duke notes out here from doing the game, and in 3 different spots, I put down deflections. He's got an uncanny ability to get a piece of the ball. He plays both ends of the floor. And I guess more importantly, he's a great teammate. We sat in meetings with the 5 starters a couple of times, and he kibitzes, got a nice way with his teammates. And in talking to Mike said he was just a treasure to be around. So I think this kid, with his foot speed, I think the shot's going to get a lot better. There's nothing wrong with it. Just I mentioned Red Holzman before. When Walt Frazier came into the league, I said, and I had seen him in the NIT, I said, Red, he doesn't have a great stroke. He said, we practice every day. We'll work on it. And I think this kid will become a great, when I say great, not a Steph 3-point shooter, but more than adequate. But he can play any place he wants. And he's got foot speed, goes either way, same hand change. He's got a handle. He can post up, and physically, he's so imposing with that frame. And he's got that killer attack of the rim that, the great ones seem to have.
If I told you could have him for the next 12 years, are there a handful of guys in the NBA? Like I said before, I probably only have 4 more prime years of Kevin Durant. I have 8 more prime years of Giannis. There's a handful of guys I'd take over him, but not a ton in terms of marketability, pleasure to coach and play with. If I said stats to you, do you think he's a triple-double guy? Or I kind of think he's built for the NBA. I think he's going to score a lot. What kind of numbers do you propose or submit we would get with him?
Well, to borrow Clark Kellogg's phrase, he's a stat sheet filler. I think he'll get 20 points easily. He's a double-double machine. I just think he's a perfect teammate. Davis is another name that keeps coming up. Would you take him and, trade the right? I think the thing you just said, the NBA is all about marketing and brand. Well, this kid is an established figure. Whatever franchise gets him, he's just going to enhance their ability to do a lot of things, and one of them is make money. So I wouldn't trade him for anybody, because the Knicks, for example, from what I read, have a lot of money available.
Yeah.
You could get, and again, this kid's a team player, so he's not going to come in and try and jack up 25, 30 shots. If you can get a couple of guys around him, you are going to have an instant success because he gives it up. He's a compliment on the defensive end. He's, as I mentioned, the ability to play any one of those spots you want. And that's what the NBA's become. Big guys that can step outside as well have a middle game.
I like the fact that after the injury, and that was a real daunting moment, I didn't think he'd come back. I thought, oh, kid, don't risk it. You got a $100 million Nike contract potentially. I was shocked and very happy that he came back after the injury. Were you surprised?
Well, in talking to the Duke people, that was never, ever in the picture.
Wow.
I mean, he wanted to come back. I mean, it was, listen, I'm not inside that office when Mike meets with him, but I think he's just a gamer. He wanted to play, and he loved his teammates. So he wanted to be part of this run, and ultimately it fell short, but they wanted to win another title. You know, get a ring for Mike. He needs one. He's only got 5. This kid is, I think just the personality besides the ability. He's a charming young guy, and I don't know him intimately, but enough where we've talked and discussed things at our little sit down with Nance and Grant Hill. I was very impressed. As well, Tracy Wolfson interviewed him. He had a funny line. The crazy end of the Central Florida game, and so what do you attribute this to? And he points at the microphone. He says, "March Madness." It was on the mic. It's like pretty cute, pretty clever for spontaneous.
Yeah. You live in New York City, and you're aware, and I've said this before, I've been to the Garden only a couple times. There's nothing really like it. I can't explain New York City. Vegas and New York City have an energy I don't think you can duplicate. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, but it's quiet. It goes to bed at 10 o'clock. I think New York is just unique for Zion. He feels he's a juice player. He's an energy guy. Do you think he would transform the city a little bit and become that big?
They fill that place with an average or mediocre team. I just think the buzz in the building would be it's almost like Tigers roar when they have somebody that's and every when I used to do the NBA, they send you the brochures and what's your favorite arena to play in, and it was always, in the majority of cases, the Garden. Yeah. There's just something about the lighting.
Yeah.
You feel you can jump higher. For those of us that weren't very capable of jumping, as a player playing in the old Garden and then coaching in the new Garden, it's you come up that elevator and you feel pretty good about your profession and about an opportunity to shine at the greatest stage in the world for Michael Jordan. The comeback game, and they just love being in that building. And I remember in '69 when the Knicks won it all. I mean, you talk about Gucci Row. Anybody that in show business was there.
Yeah.
So it's quite it's sort of a lightning rod in a lot of ways. So it's an opportunity, I think, to show people in a the marketing capital of the world.
Yeah.
So I mean, this kid, forget about the salary they pay him. I think he's gonna, he someday could have Michael Jordan's money.
Yeah.
Which is really saying a lot.
Bill Raftery called all of Duke's tournament games this season. One of the all-time greats in our business. Bill, thank you for showing up this morning for us. We totally appreciate it.
You're the best, Colin. Thanks, pal. Have a great day.
You bet. Bill Raftery. So, one of the things Bill said, he goes, I looked over my notes. He's in his office, and he saw deflections, touching the ball. That was always a great Pippen quality. Scottie Pippen was so long. He just got his hands on the ball, and, of course, any steal meant Michael got the ball back, and Michael shot about 50% in his career. So I don't get the people questioning Zion. I don't see what there isn't to like. The size, the explosiveness, the willingness to get better, the passion. I don't get it. The critics are overthinking the room. We've had this before, where people overthought the room. When Andrew Luck came out, people were like, well, his arm strength. And I'm like, folks, he's not perfect. He's 21 years old. These kids aren't perfect. You do practice, as Bill said. You practice every single day. You're going to get better when you're 20 years old, 19 years old. Joy with the news.
No. Heard on the news. This is the Herd Line News. Well, Kyrie Irving's gotten a little criticism for his poor play in the Celtics 5-game series loss to the Bucks. And appearing on ESPN this morning, Terry Rozier had some comments. He praised Kyrie's leadership, but he also suggested that Kyrie's in-game style resulted in the Celtics straying from the intended game plan at times.
We'd come in the game and it'd be a different game plan than what we kind of expected it kind of we went through in practice. He's a great guy, great leader. You just have to adjust to his style. And whatever Kyrie wants done, he's going to show it. That's what he wants done. And you have to adjust to his style of play and how he goes about every game and every day.
Well, I mean, so that's a lot right there. We'd have a game plan, and Kyrie would say, we're going to do what I want to do sometimes. That's not the easiest thing forget Kyrie. That's not always easy to play with.
Well, I mean, I think that's what he's saying. That he does have leadership qualities, and he is a great teammate, but it's kind of Kyrie's way or the highway, which, look, I mean, it was LeBron's way or the highway for the most part. And when you're the guy, or you're supposed to be the guy, you kind of make the game plan around that talent. But I think the Celtics' issue is there was a constant struggle between what Kyrie's style of play is and what Brad Stevens' system was.
Right.
And obviously the year before, it was just Brad Stevens' system because it was a lot of young guys, and they didn't have Gordon Hayward or Kyrie Irving. I mean, last year's playoffs with no Kyrie, Rozier had 16.5 points, 5.3 rebounds, 5.7 assists, and shot 40.6% from the field and 34% from three. This year, 6.4 points and 1.9 assists. Now, obviously, didn't get the same amount of playing time because it was more spread out, but that was our concern after last year's playoffs. How are they going to fit Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving into this already solid roster that seems to be moving?
We see the Warriors without KD are capable. Kyrie off the Celtics, everybody will step up. Jason Tatum disappeared. Rozier sort of disappeared. I don't think they fall off the cliff. I think they're a fine team without him. I don't think they're a championship. They don't have a closer, but I think Celtics are fine without him. And I do think we see this in sports all the time. The best player changes a dynamic in the room and in the huddle, and sometimes it's good, sometimes short-term it's not good.
I don't think that Kyrie is there next year, and I think this team looks completely different. And I think they end up with Anthony Davis, so there's going to be a lot of moving pieces there. So Jimmy Butler is an unrestricted free agent this summer. He became a Philly fan favorite after getting acquired in the trade during the season. Now the Sixers have to make a call on Tobias Harris in free agency and can offer Butler a 5-year deal worth $188 million, and he is confident he will land a max deal.
I think he will.
I think I'll knock on wood, hopefully. I'll get a max contract anywhere I choose to go. You know, you're talking 4-year, 5-year. That's more than enough money anyways. I think I still have more than enough money now from my first deal. As long as you play hard, the city loves you. You give it your all. That's all I ask of you.
So he'd be eligible to sign a maximum contracts of 5 years, $188 million if he returns to the Sixers, and he can make $141 in 4 years, $141 million in 4 years if he signs elsewhere.
Well, he's going to take 5 years because Jimmy is different from other players. He didn't have this massive college career. He didn't come into the league and star. Like Paul George, it was a process. And now he's getting what he deserves. So if I was Jimmy Butler's agent, I would not take 4 years with the Sixers. I'd take 5 years. He's the rare kid.
Well, I mean, he'll get 5 years if he stays with the Sixers. He can get the max contract 5 years and $188 million.
And Embiid's making a fortune. Jimmy's going to make a fortune. What are you going to pay Tobias Harris, who's a B?
Well, yeah, they have to make a call on Tobias Harris.
Yeah,
is what it is. But Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid. I mean, I think you need some other pieces there. Tobias Harris is a great player, so they can't pay everybody. This is what the position that every team is in salary cap league. But I mean, look, they were one shot away. We make it seem like it was this drastic fall off there. I mean, it was a dramatic loss, but they were one crazy Kawhi shot away.
But I'd argue they should never have gone to a Game 7. They had a huge talent edge. They should have wrapped that series up before. I mean, if you're looking at best 7 players in the series, I can say 5 are Sixers.
Well, Kawhi decided that didn't matter. He evened it out. Finally, we're officially in the middle of May, looking ahead to the start of the 2019 NFL season, and Peter King released his power rankings. Let's take a look at the top half of his power rankings. The Chiefs are at the top, followed by the Patriots. And you'll like this, the Colts at 3, although I think that is a little bit dramatic. Well, they're going to take a jump this year, but They're above the Rams, the Chargers, the Saints.
Boy, he's got the Cowboys.
49ers are incredibly high. Everyone is very, very high in the 49ers.
Another very popular American media icon likes them.
You
me.
love the 49ers. I am not sold on the 49ers.
Well,
I don't think that they're going to be as good as you think that they are.
Well, I didn't like the Raptors, and I was proven wrong. I think I'll give you a couple months to think that over.
This is my initial feeling. We'll see how we make it through training camp and such.
Funny, I have the Colts number 2. He's got them 3.
The Cowboys are way
I know.
down there.
He's got the Cowboys below the Texans.
Look at the Browns.
He's also got the Packers too low. Come on. Give me a break on this. Green Bay's defense, they've added between this year's draft, last year's draft, and free agency, they've added like 7 defensive starters who are good.
I think the Browns and the Ravens are too high. I would put the Cowboys above them. I would put the Texans above them. I would put the Packers and the Seahawks above them.
The Cowboys and the Packers are too low. Bears are a little high for me, but not a ton. I think Philadelphia is a little low, too. I like Philly. Didn't I have Philly 3 or 4, something like that? Most of it I agree with, actually. I don't have a lot of complaints. God, Dallas, he's got them right in the middle of the league.
Yeah.
What is that? They have good personnel on defense. Are you done? Oh, Joy's done.
Yes.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Live
Chris
News.
Haynes, the very latest NBA analyst for us at Fox Sports 1. A lot of stuff to talk about and get through. When it comes to costly car repairs, you need options. And what you need once your warranty is out is to be protected so you don't have a $600 bill when you're just going to get an oil change. And that's happened to me before. But if you get extended vehicle protection from CarShield, you're safe. You sign up at carshield.com, put in the code HERD, and you're going to get 10% off, right? That gives you roadside assistance 24/7, free whenever you need it. Gives you a rental car, free whenever you need it. And by the way, you pick the dealership, you pick the mechanic, they pay them. None of that checks in the mail stuff, none of the headache. You just hand it off. So they got a new toll-free number, 800-CAR-6000, 800-CAR-6000. Mention the code HERD. Or again, go to carshield.com, use the code HERD. Deductible may apply. It's real easy. You sign up, you subscribe, carshield.com, code HERD. They kind of do the rest, and you don't get burned. If something happens, if you look on the road when you're driving around, most cars, mine included, got a dent or two. I got one right in the back and up front. They're not new.